Okay, hello people. So today we are talking about solving using radicals. So let's take a look at this set of steps here. Step number 1 says isolate the variable, and what I mean by that is solve for x squared. So our variable, is x, but in these questions they're all going to be squared, so we just need to get it down to x squared for right now. Step number 2 says square root both sides of the equation. That means we're going to use a radical. And then step number 3 says write your answer with this symbol here. This is going to be a plus or minus sign. So remember, that meant that we had an option that was positive and an option that was negative. Okay? So let's use these on our first example over here. These questions are always going to start out with two pieces on one side and then something else on the other, okay? So yeah, let's take a look. We got x squared minus 9 equals 0. Our first step was going to be to solve for x squared, or isolate our variable. So I need to get this x squared by itself. I'm looking at this and I see there's a negative 9 here, so I want to get rid of that first. I'm going to say plus 9 to both sides so that these will cancel out, and I will be left with an x squared equals 0 plus 9 is just going to be 9. Cool. Step number 1 is already done. X squared equals 9. Okay, next step was to use a radical on both sides, or square root both sides. When I do that, you want to break it up into your pieces. I have a pair of x's here, so that means I'm going to have an x equals, let's see, I need a pair for my 9. I know that 3 times 3 will give me 9, so that's my pair right there. And then last step was to write our answer with a plus or minus sign. So that's going to be it for this one, okay? So your order here is going to be, again, get your x squared by itself. After you've done that, you're going to square root both sides, find your pairs for the numbers, and then write your answer with a plus or minus sign. And that's really it. Let's take a look at the next example, B over here. B has a little bit more going on. So again, step number 1 was to get that x squared by itself. So I'm looking at this. I see I have a 29. So I see I have a 25 and a 49. I need to get rid of that 49 first. So I'm going to do plus 49 to both sides. Then I'm going to cancel these out and see what I have left over. I got 25x squared equals 0 plus 49 is 49. And then I'm looking at this 25 because I still don't have that x squared by itself yet. So I'm going to say divide by 25 on both sides. When I do that, these two will cancel out. So then I'm left with x squared equals 49 over 25. Now I'm going to wait to divide these two. Usually our next step would be to do that, but since I need to square root next, I actually just want to square root both of those pieces. Okay, so one at a time. So taking a look, I know that for this guy, I got x times x. There's my pair, so I'm going to be left with an x. Spoiler, that's going to happen every time. For my 49, I'm going to actually scooch in here because I'm running out of space. I know 7 times 7 will give me 49, so that's what's going to be on the top of my fraction. And then at the bottom, I know that 5 times 5 will give me 25, so that's my pair there. So at the bottom, I'll have 5. So what you want to do is leave your answer as a fraction. You don't need to make it into a decimal or anything like that. You're just going to leave it the way it is. And then the last step was to make sure our answer had that plus or minus sign so that we know that we have an option that's positive and an option that's negative. But that's what we got going on here, okay? I think the most difficult part to remember here is this finding your pairs part. Because remember, square root means that you have two of the same number that multiply together. Sometimes with these, we don't have that, though. So when you are simplifying these, every once in a while you will get one that does not have a perfect square. So let's take a look at one that looks like that, like 12 or number 6. So for this guy, again, you are still going to solve for x squared first. So I see my negative 12 is in my way. I'm going to add 12 to both sides. Cancel. So I'm left with x squared equals 0 plus 12 is 12. Square root both sides for step number 2. I'm going to find my pairs. I got one for my x's. So I'm going to have x equals, let's try it out for 12. I know that 3 times 4 will give me 12. Those don't match, so let's keep going. I know that 2 times 2 could give me 4. So here's a situation where we don't have a perfect square. But I'm looking at this. I see I have a pair of 2's, so the 2's can come out. The 3, though, is all alone, so I'm going to keep that inside of my radical. And then I'm going to make sure that this has a plus or minus sign on it. And that will be my answer for that one. If you can't get a perfect square, that's okay. You could just take out what you can and leave the rest. All right. So that's what we got going on here. If you have questions, let me know. But that's the basic gist for these types of questions. All right. Have a good day.